I'm going to call this demon interface alien abduction. I'm not necessarily going to go all the way and say it was an abduction. It was definitely a physiological experience. Definitely some sort of interaction with either a projection of a demon within myself, within my subconscious, or an interaction with a non-local entity. That's up for debate, obviously, whether the entity is housed inherently within the mind, or whether it is an infiltration from the external environment. But I would put forward that it really makes no logistical difference, and I'll try and return to that later. But initially I just wanted to go over the experience itself, which I would most likely have to, I guess, lean more towards a projection from the self. However, it just doesn't seem it just seems too cut and dry to say, oh, this is a projection from myself, and it just becomes too Freudian at that point, and I'm not necessarily one to buy into that kind of stuff, at least on this conscious level. But basically, the point is, if you have an experience which you think is an abduction, or you think is some sort of interaction with an entity, you're immediately putting forth the fact that it's something that you, as a discrete entity, at least on the 3D level, within the space-time continuum, as sentient beings experience it, if you feel as though you're interacting with something else, which is another discrete variable that is within this density, then what's giving you that is the feeling that is occurring. Is that feeling an illusion, or is that feeling part of is that feeling a being driven by variables within this density? Now, obviously, we're talking on the subatomic level here, so whatever's occurring, biologically within your physiological system on the subatomic level, that's making each and every cell culminate into a consciously motivated descriptor. Whatever is making that happen must be manifesting itself from some sort of change within on the other side, and it's being translated through you as a vessel, and through your either semi-conscious or conscious understanding, conscious experience, I should say, into some sort of an identifiable event, which makes you want to come forward and discuss it as a noteworthy experience. So, basically, I was in that realm where things happen on such a complex level as they usually do, but I was in that mode, I guess, where you have some sort of a conscious bridge to that experience. So I'll draw the comparison to when I had that one of my abductions, but in the physiological sense of the abduction, this had a very similar the experience had very similar tangible effects on my physical organism, as well as I don't really know specifically how to describe it. I don't know if I have the nomenclature available to discuss it properly, but it's between your active, I guess, cognitive understanding of your experience. It's between that where you're looking back at your experience. You're perched on top of a pedestal and you're looking at your experience. That I would say is a full waking state. Whereas when you're in full dream mode, you're experiencing, but you don't have there's no physiological bridge occurring. So somewhere in between there, in this gray area, is where you have you have an experience of, there's just an added physiological aspect to your to the experience that is happening at all times. See, this is what I want to make sure I convey, is that the experience is always happening. It's always occurring. It's just the fact that when you're conscious, you don't understand that it's happening. So you think that your experience, you think that you are having an experience when you're in a waking state. Okay, and this is what I'm going to go over in future recording. I've been taking notes for a while about this, but when you're waking state, it's an illusion. It's total illusion. I think maybe I've gone over that before, but you're a total waking state illusion. In your total dream state, it's also, it's an illusion. But there's this gray area in between. And this is the area that I'm going to postulate. This is where abductions occur. This is where people experience. Okay, forget about seeing, because when I tell someone about this kind of stuff, they immediately, it's like whenever you're telling someone about an abduction experience, I was abducted by aliens, or whenever you're telling someone about an experience like that, their mind is like it's like quantum mechanics. Like when people try to take observations on the subatomic level, you take an observation, and immediately it becomes it becomes deterministic. As soon as you make the observation, it becomes determined. Whereas before, you can't make a determination, but as soon as you make the observation, it becomes determined. It's like it's a collapse. It's the waveform collapse when so. But that's just happening on a conscious, sentient mind algorithm, and basically the human mind uses all of its past understandings and then forms its own logical conclusion. And a lot of what's happening with people, I mean, it's been happening with me for a while. I know it's been happening with some of the people, some of you who are listening right now, or else you wouldn't be listening, because basically what's happening is that collapse is not, it's just not happening. But it's not happening because you're consciously directing it not to happen. It's happening. You're not allowing things to settle one way or the other. But again, I don't like going and trying to describe stuff, because it just ends up sounding like some stupid drivel. So basically, okay, what am I trying to get across here? So okay. Well, like I said at the beginning, what I can call this would be a demon interface, or demon interface alien abduction. Demon interface alien abduction. Because it's not like You know, you see uh, you see a demon with horns on it, and it's got a tail and a pitchfork, and it's shooting its fire out of its nostrils. You know, it's you're not. And it's there, and it's making you feel scared. It's making you feel scared. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And alien abduction. Okay, I'm not talking about what was that guy's name? Billy Irwin or something like that. Whatever the guy they made that movie. It's like one of the most famous alien abductions. I think it's Billy Irwin. I'm not sure. They made a movie about it. I can't remember what the movie's called right now, but it's pretty popular. It was pretty popular movie. Anyway, it's the one where they never see him again, and he goes up and he's inside of a ship, and he can see the ship, and he's looking around, and then he sees the aliens and blah blah blah, and and then you have X-Files, and you have all the things like that, where they, like in that show, they separate. They have an actual separation between, like they have all these episodes where it's like exploring that aspect. Kind of, I guess you would. What they're trying to do is create a dichotomy where half of the stuff is like paranormal, and it's like on this subconscious level, and it's like intangible, and then they're trying to create this other half in the dichotomy where it's the physical alien, and you see the alien, and you see like a werewolf, or it's like stuff like that. It's like trying to create a dichotomy. And then they have the other aspect of it where it's all within your mind, and it's like you create your own authorities, and see even when you watch X-Files, one of the main lessons that I learned in X-Files, and you learn it if you watch it enough, is you create your own authorities. Like you're watching X-Files, you're creating that authority, and on a conscious and subconscious level, you've then created that. You've created that dichotomy. So whether they intended that or not, you're creating your authority on any types of new experiences that you have, right? It's the same thing as religion, same thing as all of that. It's just adding another program for you to basically have to filter out in the end anyway. But getting back to the experience, the reason why I decided to make this recording is because of the visceral, the actual experience itself. Okay, and it's not a conscious experience, and it's not a dream state experience. This is what I like to, and that's why it's difficult to talk about it, because it's so. You're experiencing. It's not you experiencing it, okay? That's the whole. That's the whole aspect of it. Is so much of it that is experienced, you can't quantify. So I end up trying to quantify it, but that's kind of the interesting thing about it. That's what intrigues me about it. So why am I calling it a demon? Why am I calling it a demon interface? Well, it's a demon, but it's definitely, I don't know. before I started making this recording, I wanted to try to at least settle on one, is it a demon, or, why am I calling it a demon, blah, blah, blah. It's well, the things that I can take from the experience are basically the visceral emotions, or I don't want to say emotions, it's just the descriptor that I would give it, because you have to understand it, going back, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years since, whenever the time was when man, became aware of the self. All right, whenever that happened, there's been so much, so many layers added on top of that, which is what we're experiencing, on a conscious day-to-day level right now. So I guess what I'm theorizing slowly, coming to the conclusion that, because it's definitely reverse engineering, obviously. So when I'm trying to have these talks, you have to understand, you have to be on the same kind of thought process. You have to understand where I'm going with this, and like the foundations that I'm using to bring it forward, and basically, what it would seem to be is that if you keep going forward and forward and forward and forward, what's driving the fears. Well, you have not just the fears, but what's driving the things that stick around. What's driving the things that stick around? So what sticks around? We call them demons, or we call them aliens, or we call it God, or we call it whatever it might be, whatever conscious, labeling we decide to give it, or we call it a werewolf, or we call it the Loch Ness monster, whatever. I don't want to be too broad about it, but I mean, basically, these things are all being driven by things that exist. Okay, these things exist. But they don't exist on a purely subconscious level, or on a conscious level necessarily, because each of those are just offshoots of actual reality. Okay, actual reality, the existence, the existence as experienced by itself, is somewhere in between human sentience. I mean, human sentience is a product of existence, but the subconscious is a function of the of existence as experienced by human sentience. Human sentience on the conscious level is a a function of human sentience. Human sentience on a subconscious level is a function of human sentience. What's in between those is existence, being experienced by itself. So, but I guess what I'm trying to say is when you when certain visceral experiences take place, okay, if you are not experiencing something on a conscious level, and you're also not experiencing it on the subconscious level, because when you have dreams, there's still that you might not know it's a dream, but you're experiencing it. It's a definite experience, right? What I'm saying is within the band of human experience, within the band of the human experience, or the animal experience, within that band of experience, there is a there's a band within that band which is experience itself. And that can be that it's always occurring, right? But there's constantly distractions, and the human brain is constantly maneuvering and outmaneuvering itself to be totally it's totally juxtaposed. It's like I don't know. It's like a swing set on a windy day, and so anyway, I'll call this a demon interface. We'll call this a demon interface. We'll call this a demon interface. So basically there's projecting out of my body, there's a projection. Okay? Now, whether I'm projecting this entity outside of my body, or the entity is pushing itself to within this bandwidth, or I'm, willing this projection outside of my body is really irrelevant. The point is that the projection is there. The projection of the form of a demon face is projected approximately 2 inches in front of my face. And I'm holding it. I'm holding it with what feels like my intention. I'm holding that demon, or, semi-discrete entity in front of me. And why is it a demon? It's a demon because it viscerally feels unstable. It viscerally feels like some sort of atomic mass is going to be deconstructed. Some sort of volatility is going to be introduced into the environment. So, it's not a clear day with a light breeze in a still waters. It's the precipice of a typhoon. It's volatility in the place of tranquility, not experienced by human, but experienced by existence itself. And I'm trying to hold it. I'm trying to hold it steady. I'm trying to hold this entity steady. I'm trying to hold it. And it's constantly... You see, it's looking out. It's looking out. I can't see its face. I don't see what its eyes look like. I'm not even gonna postulate that it had eyes. But it was definitely some type of a head form. Like, I would describe it as, if you see those, there's like a music videos where it's like focused on one person and it's going in like really fast speed and like all the cars are moving really fast and it's just focused on like the guy's head. So because it's in fast, each little tiny movement he does makes it look like his head is like, shaking back and forth really fast, like gyrating or oscillating. Well, okay, well that's what this head or head form. I don't even want to go as far as to call it a head, okay, but it was definitely some sort of form of a head, or some sort of form, not a human head. Was it a reptilian? I don't know if it was a reptilian. I don't know if I would describe it as a reptilian. I have seen a reptilian, and it was the experience was similar to this, but that was a very different experience at the same time, because the reptilian was looking kind of at me, and it was, maybe 2 feet away from me, whereas this, it was directly in front of my face, and I couldn't see its face. I couldn't see through it. Well, maybe I could see. Maybe I was seeing through it. That's why I don't want to get into these descriptors where I'm saying I was seeing through it. That's not. I'm just having to simplify it. But the point is, I'll call it an interface. Call it I don't want to settle one way or the other, but it definitely felt like a projection. It was definitely a projection of a non-local entity. It was definitely not. It was definitely existent in a higher dimension, and I felt a lot of volatility from it, and I was having to hold it steady. I was having to basically be almost felt like the intention that was all around me was like a clamp. It was like a vice, having to try to tighten, trying to hold it still. Not necessarily because it was going to do me any harm, because I don't want to collapse into that kind of a dichotomy, but it was definitely, it wanted to be, it wanted to, you know, be set free. It wanted to be allowed to have freedom of, you know, it wanted to be allowed to have freedom. It wanted free will. It wanted, and it didn't have that. It almost had that. The whole experience was just basically that transitional state between having free will and me using my free will. So see, there were two wills. There were two discrete wills working against each other here. So is that part of my, is that all housed within, my experience? Or is it my experience? See, existence doesn't have a plot line. There's no plot in existence. On a conscious day-to-day level, we're constantly trying to manufacture some type of plot line within our lives. We're constantly trying to manufacture a purpose on a day-to-day basis, some sort of useful purpose, some sort of beginning, a direction towards an end. Constantly manufacturing some sort of ultimate satisfaction point where we can fulfill our destinies. And then on the subconscious level, which is an extension and a function of our conscious experience, a reflection of such, we are I guess working with shards and fragments, exploring, I guess, the myriad of different conscious outcomes, different amalgamations of events that take place in conscious reality, within the 3D environment. But the playground is a little bit bigger in the dream state. It goes beyond, certain density level. Because you have those dreams where you're flying, you're floating, or blah blah blah. There's always different illusory cognitive experience that can take place on that level. But how many times do you have a dream where it seems like it's totally disjointed? There's no plot line. There's no it's just at least what you can consciously remember of it. Obviously, the things that you're consciously going to remember are the things that reflect most significantly back to you. I guess, I don't know. Or then you have dreams where, there's some sort of a significant plot, or you have those recurring dreams where it seems like the plot is taking several different, sleeping events to come to fruition. But you can tell that those experiences in the dream state are being driven by they're being driven artificially through they're being driven artificially to create either a rational or semi-rational plot line, a means to an end, a purpose to an end. So all of these distractions are distracting from true existence, which doesn't have a plot line, doesn't rationalize. True existence, existence as experienced by itself, doesn't have a plot line. Existence as experienced by itself is well, it is what it is. Okay, I hate having to collapse into that because it doesn't collapse. But in part 1 of this recording, if you listen closely and you if you take the words on the whole, I guess what it was supposed to do was leave you with an understanding of existence as it's happening, from each now moment to the next now moment, each and every new now moment. The experience, the existence as experienced by itself has no plot line. So the struggle, the volatility, the potential for volatility, the holding of the suppression of volatility, the potential for volatility, the inability on both the microcosmic and macrocosmic level to maintain some sort of continuum. That's happening inside of you, and it's happening on the other edge of the galaxy as a neutron star, or I'm not very good with astrophysics or whatever it is, but whenever a star is going to collapse, or the star's energy becomes too much, or it becomes too dense, and it collapses in on itself and creates one of those like black holes or nebula or supernova. That's what I'm trying to say. The supernova. At each and every moment, that's what's happening. The projection, the demon projection, the demon interface, alien abduction, whatever the hell you want to call it. That's me trying to associate labels to it, but that is existence. That is reality. That is existence as experienced by itself. Unfortunately, you're having to listen to this, as expressed through an incredibly dumb animal. Cognitively speaking. But just remember, everything that goes into the experience is within you as well. So never forget that. And this is when I'm gonna go into one of those stupid, self-healing procedures, which are kind of good to go through. Self-healing exercises are kind of good to go through, because it kind of sucks when on a day-to-day basis, you're understanding the universe as experienced by itself. You're not understanding it, obviously. You are what is existence and the universe, but you still have to go through your daily routine. It's unfortunate, but that's why you see the beauty of it, and you see the hopelessness of it at the same time. So it's you don't want to get caught up in that kind of a situation. I don't want to say it's detrimental, but you're going to see the beauty, and you're going to see pure, unadulterated darkness. You're going to see void, and you're going to see purposelessness. And it sucks to see that on a conscious level, because then you're not looking at it correctly anyway. But your conscious mind is then turning that into what the conscious mind turns things into when viewed through that type of a lens, which is, well, then what's the point of having fun here? Why am I stuck here? I hate being stuck here. I don't want to be stuck in this illusion of an experience. It's boring, but at the same time, there's so many good things that you can experience, within this experience that you have, and that I have, and we all have, and this is why it's a balancing act, and it's a balancing act for the person who was born into this world without, a chance at just having fun. At least you can have fun. At least I can have fun. I can go out and I can do whatever I want on a daily basis. We can go out. We can meet new people. We can do fun things. We can laugh. Laughing is such a great thing. If you're ever having one of those moments where you're just really, you're a little bit wound up and you're a little bit, you're a little bit stressed out, just laugh. Even if you don't feel like laughing, just start laughing and don't stop laughing. Just keep laughing. Just laugh. And then after a while you'll actually start to find your own laughter funny, and you'll have legitimate laughter, and then, hopefully you'll forget about whatever it was that was troubling you before. Yeah, another thing, in part one, when I was describing, the foundational basis, when you have a foundation, and you're talking to someone. And this is why there's been a couple times, over the last, year or whatever, or however long it's been since I last did a recording for this channel. I returned back to the YouTube user Adam Pants, Jonathan. I returned back to what he was saying a few times. And one of the things that stuck out to me, sometimes you hear things and they make sense to you, but then, it's not until you really understand them, you really gain an awareness. Some of them are just innately, you understand them, because you've either come to that, understanding yourself, or, it just manifests itself. Like you don't need affirmation from other, people around you. You just already get it. You may not have always understood it, but you've always kind of gotten it. Whereas other things, you hear them and you think you understand them, but you don't really get them until you just don't get them at that point. But one of the things that's really solidified for me is when he said in one of his recordings that when you see someone who doesn't get it, or there's so many different ways that someone could not get what you think that you understand anyway. So it's kind of, even when he says that, it's very, obviously, it's a subjective thing. But I guess that the commonality that we have between each other is that if he understands, I guess, what I've been trying to explain in all of the recordings that I've been doing, whether I've been, hitting my points or not hitting my points, whatever the hell I've been trying to explain away in my futile fashion with these human words. You know, at least there's the commonality that peacefulness that you get, that tranquility that you get when, you know, you are, you know, if you're asked a certain question and someone else is asked the same question, and it's an indicative question, you'll have the same response. And that response might be to just stare at the person and say nothing. Well, yeah, I mean that would be the response would just be to understand that that person who's asking you that question, there's no answer. Any answer that you would give is just it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because anyway. So one of the things that resonated to me was when he was talking, when he said that it's like 5,000 mouths, you know, all talking at the same time or something like that. You know, like when someone asks you a question or something like that, or whatever it is, there's like 5,000 different things that all culminate into whatever you might say, or because I think what he was trying to get at was that if there's, you know, sometimes someone will ask you something, or someone will bring something forward, and there'll be, you know, 5,000 different things that are going on inside of your head, and the ultimate response is just silence, basically. You know that, like, that's something that I feel is really, you know, like it's not like 5,000 different mouths. That's what he's saying. There's like 5,000 different mouths that are talking at the same time or something. I don't really think of it that way. It's more just like, you know, it's not words. It's not like people. It's not voices saying things. It's just 5,000 different understandings that are all working together, you know, in unison to you know, have an ultimate understanding of what is being brought into your you know, dimension at that time. So yeah, so that was one thing, because, you know, I mean, we're not really you can overcomplicate it, but I mean, okay, what people you know, I mean, I've had a lot of teachers, and he was one of my teachers, definitely. But when you have and again, another thing, you know, people like leave comments on my videos, and it's like, oh, you think you're Adam Pants, blah blah blah, and all this stupid crap. I don't think I'm Adam Pants. I'm my own human being, okay? And if you're like leaving stupid comments, then, you know, it's just, you obviously are, I don't know, you just have some sort of an issue. But I will say, and I've said it before in, like, it was one of my earlier videos, the reason why I started making these videos was because he actually stopped. That was one of the really real driving factors in me starting to make these recordings, was because what I liked about his recordings were they were just, you know, just him talking. It was just a person talking. You know, I like the stuff that I talk about is different than what he talks about, but, you know, there's a lot of similar understandings that we have, and lots of people have, that so it makes it sound, I guess sometimes, I guess in some of my other recordings earlier on, maybe, where it sounds like I'm trying to like be like him or something like that. No, that's not the case. It's just, if you really get it, then, you understand that, and he said it too, and if you don't get this, then you'll leave stupid comments like that on the videos. If you don't get that you're me and I'm you, like that's what he said in one of his things. Yeah, well, that's obvious, but you can say that and you can hear that, and it doesn't really, you might understand it on some sort of level, but it doesn't really get any simpler than that, really. So yeah, so like returning to this demon, like people wanna be scared, people like being scared. People like listening to ghost stories, and why do you like watching horror movies? You like being scared. Alien abductions. I love listening to alien abduction stories if they're if they sound authentic. If I love listening to like all of that, all those videos on YouTube with it's like Project Avalon and Project Camelot. Whenever they have like some guests on there and they talk about like secret UFO stuff and all that kind of stuff. I was never into that kind of stuff, like for most of my life, and it was because of the experiences that I started having that made me start to look into that. But it's half of it is entertainment, half of it is because you really feel like, yeah, what, I think there is something else that's going on here. But on a day-to-day basis, on a daily basis, it's not seeing the UFO. I mean, all that stuff is out there. Okay, if you want to start exploring that and going forward with it, you'll start to encounter certain things that are there. It's the same thing. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but if you start playing with a lot of contentious symbols, symbology, satanic kind of stuff, weird things, fucked up things are going to start happening to you, and not good things. Like, I was experimenting with stuff like that for a little bit a while back, and whether it's you doing it to yourself, or whether it's something externally that's happening, something really starts to happen. Like if you want to, there's so many things. There's just so many different areas and aspects that you can explore on this plane, in this density, but ultimately that they're going to lead you outside of this density. That's if that's where you want to go. It's it's there. Okay, it exists. But you also have to be, on the right path, on your path. You have to be, it's like I said before, certain things are happening around you. It's just whether you're in tune to them. And there'll be a succession of events, or there'll be, this happens and that happens, or someone says something, or whatever it might be on this density. But you'll have the awareness, you'll be aware that there's many different things that are actually going on, which are culminating into that event. It's hard to kind of quantify that aspect, but because it's just an overall awareness, it's not like tic-tac-toe. It's just a heightened level of awareness, and you won't be you won't be fabricating things, because you'll just be in tune with what's actually really going on. And again, you have to be careful. You have things that you have to do during the day on a daily basis. Unfortunately, we have to do certain things. Well, we don't have to. You don't have to. You can just stop today and you can do whatever you want to do. Okay? But ultimately, you don't have, you can stop. You can do whatever you can stop, and you can move forward, live every new moment as a new now moment. That's another thing is like that is freedom, to actually live every moment, each new now moment. That is freedom. It's impossible. It's impossible to do that, in this, density, in this experience. But it is possible to attempt. You still can't attempt to be doing that. But it's basically the I don't want to over quantify this. I don't want to start rambling on. So, I'll just, I'll leave it at that. But from the time that I made the last recording for this channel until now, there's been a lot of, different experiences that I've had, different, different aspects, different perspectives. And it gives you the illusion that you're heading towards something, and you're on a plot line, and that's why it's kind of fun. But ultimately, you one of you who's listening to this right now, you might be you might be abducted, and you might not come back. So are you prepared for that? I mean, if you understand, if you're reaching that level of awareness, if you're reaching that level of awareness, you're exploring, beyond this dimension. Not through intention. Like I don't try to get into like states so I can experience other dimensions. It just kind of happens sometimes, and that's why I like to let it just flow. That's why I'm making this recording. That's what's driving it. Is I like to drive it with experience, as opposed to some book I read. It's nice because I've read a few books since I've last made a recording, which is, it helps me, helps me algebraically put different things together in a more concise fashion. Well, I know you might be laughing right now when I say concise, because I know I'm anything but that when I'm trying to explain certain things. But if you're, you know, you will be ready for that. You know, I'm not sold on the idea that it's you know you know you're taken against your will. You know, that like there's such you know, and you have to question you have to ask yourself, and you have to question, you know, why is that, you know, the main talking point usually whenever someone brings up aliens or abductions and all this thing. I guarantee that for 99% of the people, even the people that, you know, are really into that kind of stuff, the main thing that goes into their mind is you're taken, and you're taken against your will. And, you know, it's not something that, you know, it's not a 50-50 kind of a thing, you know. It's a total, you know, disembodied, decapitated removal of you. And yeah, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that paradigm. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's shred that paradigm to pieces, because if you go with experience, at least if I go with my experience, you know, that's not my experience. You know, but at the same time, you have to be, you know, you'll get to that point. You'll understand what I'm saying when you get to that point where you just become ready. You're aware, and you understand. You're aware that you might go, you might leave, and you might not come back. So you figure that out for yourself. You figure out, you know, what I'm trying to say. You figure out where I'm going with that. But you'll know. You'll know that that's a very, very concrete possibility. If you're getting to that point of you know, if you're on that threshold, and again, let's lay the foundation here. I'm not talking about you who is going through that barrier. Yes, paradoxically, you are going to that, you're experiencing that threshold, but if you're truly if you're truly crossing the threshold, then, you know, it's not you anymore. It's not you anymore. It's you. But I will say that over the last year or so, I've had a lot of feelings where that's why I've been returning to what that person said. It's because, like, I'm not using that as like, okay, that's exactly what I'm feeling, is what Adam Pants was saying when he's talking about the 5,000 mouths moving. But that's like, that makes sense to me. But it's not like 5,000 mouths. It's like 5,000 just like different things. And I don't want to say that it's putting me in like paralysis, because paralysis has bad connotations to it. Like, oh, you're paralyzed. Like, it's not like a bad thing. It's just like, like, you just, you'll be going through something from day to day, and like, whatever, something will just happen to you like during the day, and you'll suddenly start to feel like, okay, like, why am I having to, why am I dealing with this right now? Why is this distraction in front of me? It's kind of, I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about. Not like the distraction itself is a bad thing or whatever. It's just that when you're tapped into existence as it's happening, like when you have tapped into it, when it's tapped into you, whatever way you want to describe it, it starts to push itself further and further and further towards the surface, I guess you could say. So maybe I'm not directly trying to tie this back into, what I'm talking about in part one, but I'm just saying, when, the more that, because I want to make a distinction between your illusion of what your experience is and, experience itself, existence experiencing itself, right? Like, there's the illusion, and then there's not the illusion. Now, it's not a dichotomy, because the illusion doesn't exist, right? You exist as part of existence. I mean you, as in, what experiences existence, like, the bandwidth that I'm talking about, where, subconscious, conscious, and whatever the hell lies in between there. The more that existence itself is allowed to push itself closer to the surface, closer to those neurons firing inside of your brain. And maybe that's what's a better way to put it, right? Because what's happening in your brain is existence. I'm not talking about the thoughts that your brain manifests. I'm talking about the brain itself. Like, the billions of brains that are on the planet Earth are part of existence. right? So I mean, you it's like trying to, when you're making classifications of things like humans do, where does the classification stop, and where does the classification begin? Like, okay, what's a body? Okay, there's a body of people. There's a body of water. What's the body of water? What is water? Is water, an two H molecules and an O molecule? And, you know, and then moving forward, then there's the whole, lake itself, and then there's the vegetation around it, and then there's the planet itself, and there's the people on the planet, and it's kind of like, well, all of that is a body, right? The whole, all of that is a body, and then, I mean, all I'm saying is, there's an individual fish, and then there's a school of fish, and if you interrupt a school of fish, the whole school of fish moves in the exact same direction somewhere else as like a group together. So is the entity the school of fish because of its interaction with its environment, or is it the individual fish? Like depending on how you classify things, they could be different. You could classify things and end up having the same sort of relative classification of things. Like, where does something stop, and where does it end as far as classification? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. When you go down to the subatomic level, not a lot of things are differentiated. When you go into the absolute macrocosmic level, obviously it's impossible to experience that through our experience, but consciously anyway. But that is the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Because what other? I'm just speaking logically right now, obviously, but the point is, what is the point? Returning back to the demon. The demon is real. The demon is real. The experience is real.